Go ahead and get started. All right. Okay, so welcome to the 28th episode of the Revolutionary Code, where we bring the truth about how governmental politics actually works in every facet of human existence and how that affects our people, melanated Black people here in America, Africa, and the diaspora. I am your host, Brother Tamani Mwandani, out of Houston, Texas. I am the direct revolutionary product of one Carter and Bayou Chewy out of the Tribes of the Black Madonna, and the indirect revolutionary product of one Albert B. Clegg, African named Jaramogi Bebe Ajiman, the father of liberation theology and the founder of the Tribes of the Black Madonna. I am also the founder of the Black Gold Nation Movement. My co-host, the National Director of Political Strategy and Implementation for the Black Gold Nation Movement, and the Chairman of LACE, Liberation Advocates for Community Empowerment, the intellectual gangster. And you're going to see why tonight. Corporate grassroots revolutionary and master domino assassin from Shreveport, Louisiana, aka the Boot, Brother Craig B. Lee. Brother Craig, how you doing this evening?
Greetings in revolutionary spirit. I am live, direct, and correct. Getting my throat ready for tonight.
Okay, excellent. All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm drinking my herbal tea.
Yeah, just don't make no faces. Before we get started this evening, let me let you know a little bit about the Black Gold Nation Movement. Our ultimate goal is to put ourselves, our people, melanated Black people, in the position by which we can own and control the environment where we live. We believe that if we don't own or control the environment, we are always going to be in a losing position. We believe that if we don't control the systems within that environment, we're always going to find ourselves, on the bottom of those systems, be it the economic system, the political system, the educational system, the security system, the political system, any system that occurs within our environment. If we don't control those systems, or if we don't control the entire environment, we are always going to be on the bottom, which means we are always going to lose. And since we, the supporters, members, leaders in this movement, do not want to continue to lose, we are doing everything we absolutely can to position our people to be in control of the space where we live. That is why Brother Craig and I are here. We're not just here to inform and educate you. We're here to inform, educate, motivate, mobilize, organize, and build. Every single thing we do, every single thing we say is an effort to get you to do something. We want you to come on board, become a part of this movement so we can build a nation within this nation for our people, so we can build power, period. I am hoping, I am praying that after tonight's show, you will further understand why we are so necessary, what makes us so different, and why we are so unique. Tonight's show title is From Booker T. Washington to the Black Panthers, Our Greatest Takeaways and Lessons Learned. From Booker T. Washington to the Black Panthers, Our Greatest Takeaways and Lessons Learned. Tonight's show is sponsored by Regeneration 180's Regeneration Freedom School, the Black Gold Nation Movement's youth education model and program. Within the Black Gold Nation Movement, we fully understand that we can't build anything without knowledgeable, capable, and willing youth. And Sister Jennifer Higgins, the Black Gold Nation Movement's National Youth Education Division Director, is doing just that. As of this past Tuesday, March 2nd, she has begun a book club for teenagers between the ages of, I think, 14 and 18 on the book, The Willie Lynch Letter and the Making of a Slave, so she can educate our youth on the systematic efforts made to continually keep our people in physical, mental, and spiritual slavery. So if you want to learn more about Regeneration 180, the Regeneration 180 Freedom School, and the SOS Book Club, and also get your teenager involved or a teenager you might know, please visit her website at regeneration180.org/teen-self-work. I will also place that in the chat so you guys can go get more information. Okay, with that, we're going to jump right into this thing. We got a lot of information to cover. So the first question, we always want to start with definitions to make sure that everyone is on the same page as we move forward with tonight's conversation. So tonight's show, the title, again, is From Booker T. Washington to the Black Panthers, Our Greatest Takeaways and Lessons Learned. First question, Brother Craig. The 6 pillars of empowerment, what are they and why is each one so important?
Meet the Aaron Chair by Haverty. Available.
Turn this off. The 6 pillars of empowerment are my cornerstone concept for empowering an individual and the overall community in any ethnic group, but especially with our folks. And you start with spirituality, then you go into right culture, and that leads into education. Then we go into economics, then we go into socioeconomics, and then we go into politics. And those 6 pillars, in order for an individual to be able to navigate this treacherous game that we're in, he or she must embrace those pillars. That has to become the foundation of their daily existence on this planet. And when you can bond individuals together who have the same shared perspective and they're rolling with the same 6 pillars, now you can collectively start to maneuver and make things happen for your people. And those 6 pillars lead to the overall goal of empowerment, which I define as the ability to control your destiny. And as I always say, the word your is a 2-part word. You individually working with skills, education, talent that the Creator has bestowed upon you, has blessed you with, in order to help OUR, our collective group, move forward from a positive standpoint. And that's what the 6 pillars of empowerment represent. That's what they are.
Okay, now I know that's a lot of information for everybody to digest, to fully understand, but it's important that you understand what the 6 pillars are. And hopefully, if you've seen the previous episodes, if you continue to watch and join us on these episodes, you'll not only better understand what the 6 pillars are, but why they are so important. As we talk about the different movements that our people have had since we've been here in North America, since the time the first documented slave arrived, there have been efforts made by Black people to move our people forward, but all of them have either failed completely or have fallen short of the ultimate goal of truly liberating and saving Black people. So when we say the 6 pillars, we are specifically talking about those things that we believe Black people need that we have not had to date to fully 100% secure our liberation and salvation so we can move forward. And as we go through this conversation, we're going to point out some of the things, we'll point out the things that some of our movements got right, of course, that we can learn from, as well as what pillar they did not have. And I think you're going to find a common theme with at least 2 of the pillars that all of our movements seem to lack, which is why we were not able to accomplish their goal, or why they've kind of weakened over the years if they are still around.
And Brother Tamani, let me add this. Of the 6, people focus so much on economics. Economics. Gotta have economics. Although economics is a part of the 6, what people don't get about the game that we're in, it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. So economics is definitely important, but it's not the most important. The reason that spirituality is the most important, and you and I have, working on the definition for this epic term, the reason that spirituality is important is because it is the intrinsic supernatural power harnessed within positively enlightened humans, which fuel them to harmoniously connect with the master creator and the righteous ancestors. Now, what does that mean in all? It connects you to your power source, the creator of the universe and your righteous ancestors. Now, all of the ancestors that exist inside of you ain't righteous. You got some janky ass ancestors inside of you, just like I do. What you want to do is be able to embrace the power of those righteous entities so that power and the power of the creator guides you to doing three very important things. First and foremost, unlock, unleash, and activate your third eye, your mind. Because this is what you gotta have in order to maneuver. And once you get your spiritual power, which is your protection and your fuel, that leads you into right culture, establishing those things that already exist. Some of them are not on point. Some of them are, you filter out what's bad, keep what's good, and then you go into the learning phase. You got to do those three things before you get into economics, socioeconomics, and politics, so it can positively help us. And as Tamani is saying, none of the movement have embraced those first two things. And that's what now throws you off in terms of the education. And once that's thrown off, the economics and everything else.
And again, I think one of the things one of the major things that I want to drive home tonight with the show, again, is the common thread that we're going to see with what our movements have not had, what our leaders have not had, which is a direct result of what they were not able to accomplish. But with that, again, we want to point out what they got right, because all of them did some things correctly. All of them made some efforts that got us this far. And of course, we want to build upon those steps moving forward. So second question, Brother Craig, and this also plays into understanding what our leaders and movements have or have not accomplished to date, and how we can build upon this stuff and also plug holes. The 6 factions of African descendants, what are they, and why is each of them so important for us to understand and know? The 6 factions of African descendants.
So we have 2 factions that are Black, and you have 4 that are Negroes. And Negroes are the byproduct of Eurocentric philosophy within this overall system of white supremacy and racism. So the 2 Black factions, you have grassroots Black people. Those are our hardworking brothers and sisters who get up every day. They're proud to be connected to the continent, although they may not know much about the continent. They ain't trying to sell out. They're not trying to be connected with being a bourgeoisie sellout Negro. And then you have your grassroots hybrid Black folks. Those are the people that's on this call. People who really have skills, who can maneuver in both the private sector, the public sector, corporate business, and also still have a love for their people and want to help their people. That's mandatory. That's what our job is. Okay, those are your 2 Black factions. On the Negro side, because of our centuries of indoctrination, you have people who look like us, but they're just melanated, but their minds are Eurocentric. And those are bourgeoisie Negroes, melanated bourgeoisie Negroes, melanated pseudo-bourgeoisie Negroes, melanated grassroots Negroes, and melanated savage Negroes. It is very important that we understand, because none of our people in the past understood this. Melanin does not make you Black. Because if melanin makes you Black, Clarence Thomas would be the #1 Black person. in the goddamn world, because he is highly melanated, but he is not black because his mind is Eurocentric. That makes him embrace Eurocentric thought. All of this is played as relates to the mind, philosophy, ideology, and whatnot. So those are your 6 factions of African descendants. And whether they are light by way of melanin or highly dark, i.e. like myself, that matters not, because it is whether or not their mindset embraces our stolen legacy and they're about the business of liberation, empowerment, and advancement of our people. That's what makes you black, not merely your skin pigmentation.
All right. And when we use the word African, we use the letter K as opposed to the C. Just a quick bonus. Why do we use that K, brother Craig?
Because the term Africa, and it don't come from no damn white dude, Africanus. He conquered the Afri people, as Dr. Smalls loves to break that down. But because Africa has so many different names, and it's so crazy that people don't understand some of this basic logic. If you're from a particular region and you never left your region, you probably define your region with the name Kemet. Mm-hmm. If you were from another region, you probably had the name Al-Kebalan. If you were from the region where the Afri people from, you may have said Africa. Whatever it is, you basically will find in many of those names the K. Al-Kebalan, Kemet, Africa. So we switched up the C that has been pretty much used during the Berlin Summit, where they divided up the continent. And we now come in with the K to now connect us back to the origin and let it be known, to initiate conversation, that we know that we are connecting back to Al-Kebalan, back to Kemet, whatever that name is. We're letting it let it be known that we understand that this is not the only name that is there, but it is the commonly understood name. So we do want to differentiate it from the European spelling to go back to the K.
Solid. Okay. All right. From Booker T. Washington to the Black Panthers, our greatest takeaways and lessons. Again, it's critically important that we understand what our past movements and leaders were about, so we can build upon their successes, what they started, understand and learn from what they did and didn't do, so we can continue to move forward as a people. One of the mistakes, and brother, for those of you guys who were here before we actually got started, Brother Craig was talking about an article he sent me that breaks down the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, and how our people we have serious issues when it comes to the reality, the real story, the real history of what our people did and did not do. We want to romanticize, we want to place on a pedestal. And we're not trying, in this movement, we're not trying to take away from what our people did. We're just saying that we have to critically understand what they did, what they didn't do, what they got right, what we can make better, so that we're not making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So exactly. we're gonna take them one by one, starting with Booker T. Washington and the National Negro League, which started in 1900, and to my surprise, it's still around today. So, Brother Craig, what did Booker T. Washington and the National Negro Business League, what did they get right? What pillar were they missing, and what can we learn from them?
Well, Booker T. Washington definitely had the vocational education focus on point 100%. Because if you go back to chattel slavery, this is when we were at full goddamn employment, that which the Panthers were begging the white folks for. We were at full employment from 1619 up until 1865. But what our people didn't understand was that we were the ones that had all the skills. Okay, so we had all of the skills because we were doing all the work. I'm talking about all your iron work, your carpentry work, your agriculture work. All of this was being done by us. And so when Booker T. Washington comes along, he's born in 1856. So he's born just a few years, 9 years before the end of chattel slavery. When he comes along, he understands. We have some good assets from our forced labor. So Booker T. Washington wanted to take those particular skills and build upon them. Simultaneously, you had our good partner, W.E.B. Du Bois, and of course, we're gonna probably, if you don't have him, we talked about, Du Bois comes along, he wants to do liberal arts education, doctors, lawyers, chemists, which you need those too. Mm-hmm. But Booker T. Washington was dealing with the assets that we already had, and they butted heads because one wanted to look at this thing from a visionary standpoint of the highly intellectual aspects that we needed, and one wanted to deal with it from a practical vocational standpoint. I don't give a damn if you are a lawyer or a doctor, you still need somebody to cut your hair. I don't give a damn if you're a lawyer, doctor, chemist, you still need somebody to build your damn house. So it's kind of crazy that we had all of this foolishness going on, and both of them were supported by white folks, but the white folks, of course, were more engaging with Booker T. Washington because he was perceived as non-threatening. But what we can see with Booker T. Washington is a lasting institution by the name of Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee University, where he, George Washington Carver, and other great Black folks developed some phenomenal things. And if you have never in your life gone to Alabama to visit one of the most historic sites in world history, you need to carry your ass to Tuskegee so you can see what Booker T. Washington built. It's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's deep off in the damn woods of Tuskegee, Alabama, but it still stands. And his institution laid the foundation for Marcus Garvey. That's why Garvey came to the United States to visit him. So Booker T. Washington got that right. He got vocational education right. He got learning to advance what we were doing right. So those are the things he definitely got right.
Okay, cool. And what category would you place? And this might be kind of difficult because it's an organization, but what category of the six factions would you place the leadership? Booker T. Washington, as well as the leaders in the National Negro Business League, would you place them in the Black or the Negro category? It's tough, yeah, I know.
I would place him as one of the small percentages of bourgeoisie Negroes. Although he was advocating vocational education, I would place him as one of the small percentages of bourgeoisie Negroes who we can work with, who is workable. Not all of the bourgeoisie Negroes are sellouts. I mean, the vast majority of them are. But he was one of the ones, because out of his lineage, out of his leadership lineage, comes the leader who created Grambling University. Mm-hmm. And so Brother Adams, and so Grambling is also a testament to Booker T. Washington. And there's no telling what other school, but for definitely sure, Grambling State University comes out of that line. So I would probably classify him as a bourgeoisie Negro who teetered on the grounds of being a grassroots hybrid.
And I'm assuming you would categorize the leadership in the movement as the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of them were straight up sellout Negroes, because once he died and the next president came along, totally different situation.
Right. Okay. And you started to touch on this one as well. So I'm not. Yeah, we're just going to roll into it. Okay. The next one, the NAACP, started in 1910. Of course, it's still around. What have they gotten right as an organization? What pillar is missing, and what can we learn from the NAACP?
So the NAACP got their start with white folks, so that's already wrong.
Yeah.
They had it wrong. W.E.B. Du Bois helped to create them, but it didn't take him long to see that what he created was bad, so he got out.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start something, and it's visionary, as he helped to start the Boule. He helped to start the Boule in 1904. So when you start these things, it's hard to undo them. And so he helped to create the NAACP and the Boule, two bourgeoisie entities, which led to the foundation of the talented 10 philosophy, which was not what most people believe it is. So on the front end, they created enough belief that they were about the business of advancing our folks. But like I told you already, where you get your money from and who you have sex with determines your politics. Yeah. And their politics were being determined by white folks. I mean, it's just bottom line. And so they got a lot wrong as it relates to that, but they were on a lot of groundbreaking cases at that point. But their goal was never empowerment. Their goal was always integrating with white folks. Right. They were totally off base. There's a book that you can get called Teaching Equality, Black Schools During the Era of Jim Crow. And you just look at stuff that's being said by the great Charles Hamilton Houston, one of the greatest legal minds in the history of the planet, former dean of Howard Law School, came out of Harvard. And nowhere in the book, as this white boy's chronicling all of these landmark decisions, nowhere in the book are they fighting for equity. They literally keep on talking about equality, which would never happen. So they were willing to eliminate the Black schools that really just needed resources and better facilities. They were willing to do that so they could merge with white folks.
Yep. That
was what the whole Brown versus the Board of Education, the People Board of Education was all about. And as they won that case, then what ends up happening? The white people take their children out of the schools that now Negroes were going to be bused to, and they went to private schools, which then, of course, created the whole concept of magnet schools. So they got a lot wrong. Yep. They advocated on legal cases, yes, they did, but the direction that they were heading, we now can see that was not the appropriate direction. But all of those cats primarily were bourgeoisie Negroes. Of course, W.E.B. Du Bois changed later on once he got enlightenment and became a Pan-Africanist. Right. When he moved to Ghana, but it was too damn late. So they weren't going to let him come back to the United States to help undo the two great things that he helped to produce, which was the NAACP and the Boule. So I can actually say that Du Bois, even though he's not credited directly, he did help to create those institutions, and they still do stand in a negative way for grassroots people, but they still do stand today.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing that they still stand still stand for black people in a negative way.
But in the negative sense, most people would probably say it's bad. I like the fact that they stand because it can give you the empirical evidence that integration, pseudo-integration, is the craziest thing that was ever proposed. So I like the fact that they're still in existence so that grassroots people can see these people are not for us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm damn, they look like you.
Yeah.
They're not for us.
Right.
Period. So it kind of like, sometimes you need a physical boogeyman to show Negroes what time it really is.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned the word boule. For those people that don't know what the boule is, can you briefly break that down?
Boule is a term, it's a French term that means messenger to the king. So it's a secret society, just like the white folks have Skull and Bones and their secret societies of the higher crest of plutocracy and the oligarchy. You got the boule, which is the messenger to the king. So they come underneath the plutocrats and the oligarchs and the white aristocracy, right? So these entities are, shall I say, the cultural mediators between the power structure white folks and the grassroots community. And they play their role and they meet. And their objective is to keep Negroes in check and to make sure that when the white folks need to bring certain concepts or programs to the Black community, they serve as that go-between. They laid the foundation for all of what you've heard over the past several months with the damn Divine Nine. The boule is, they're the architects of all of your Negro Greek letter organizations because they were the first, Sigma Pi Phi.
Yeah.
And most of them come out of the Masonic order as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting when I was preparing for tonight's show, I did not include the Divine Nine because not only did they wouldn't fit in these categories, but I think they are more on the social side of things, which is another conversation altogether. But we can get into that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the next one is Noble Jew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple, started in 1913 and still around today. What did they get right? What pillar is missing? And what can we learn from them brothers and sisters?
They got the education component right. They got the education component right. They were trying to do the cultural piece. And that's kind of hazy. They got the spiritual piece wrong because they still went with religiosity, and Negroes left Christianity and went into Islam. By sheer group affiliation, they started doing some low-level economics. So initially, they got that right. The socioeconomics piece was never focused on our people as a whole, and they definitely didn't get governmental politics right. So they got the education component of getting into learning on a higher level, dealing with legal issues in the United States. I got to give it to them on that. They really got into that. But it is morphed into a tyrannical type, idealistic, romantic perspective of things that they don't really understand. Because when I talk to those guys, they really don't understand how this whole plutocracy component works from this country to throughout the world. But I give it to them. They are high level learners. I'll say that.
Excellent. Okay, and what category would you place them in?
Grassroots Negro.
Yeah.
Grassroots Negro.
Cool.
Highly intelligent grassroots Negro.
Dig it. Okay, next one. Marcus Garvey and the UNIA, 1914 to present.
Garvey took the concept of Paul Cuff, if y'all have never read about him, y'all need to read about him. Paul Cuff, C-U-F-F-E, yeah, Cuffy. He and Richard Allen were the original entities who led the Back to Africa movement in the late 1800s. This is way before Garvey came along. And so Garvey takes the Black Star Line concept from him because Paul Cuff, he had an all-black shipping company back in the late 1700s, going into the early 1800s. So Garvey took that concept, took Booker T. Washington's concept, so he understood the need for vocational education. And he left Jamaica, came to the United States, and what he got wrong that Paul Cuff was doing, Paul Cuff was focused on the economic piece in terms of manufacturing, distribution, transportation, storage, consumption. Garvey wasn't focused on building ships. He bought ships from white folks, and of course, they're not going to tell you
they were inferior ships, yeah.
So he was trying to do too much, and he didn't trust a lot of people because he was well read, and he tried to be too many things. Of course, they didn't get the spiritual part correct. They were rooted in Christianity. I give him the cultural try. Mm-hmm. He did push Africa, but the interesting thing about Garvey, when he was deported from the United States and sent back to Jamaica, for all of the push that Garvey did for Africa, he never went to Africa.
Yeah.
He never stepped foot. I don't get that. And he died in goddamn London. So, again, when you study some of the stuff that our people do, it's like, how are you promoting Africa, but you don't never go to Africa? And then when you're deported from the United States, you end up dying in London. But I do give him the try of culture. The education piece, of course, they failed. He tried to do certain businesses, but he sold stock and whatnot, and some of them got started, but he failed in a major way. But he built the greatest movement in the history, Black movement in the history of the planet, mm-hmm. And that still stands today. I don't know if that'll ever be replicated. I know we're going to do our job, but the time that he did that, he was able to pull a lot of people together, yep. Millions, to do. My uncle, who started Moortown here in Shreveport, was a part of his organization. But he didn't mobilize the people who had created the Black townships. It was crazy. Simultaneously, of course, W.E.B. Du Bois was used against him. Mm-hmm. And, Du Bois called him a monkey or ape or whatever. And so there was a lot of hateration going on with the bourgeoisie people.
Yeah.
Because he was a grassroots brother. But I would put him in the category of grassroots Black, just making some bad mistakes. And then by him not having the spiritual piece, he couldn't see the setup. Yeah. It said that Garvey was the first target of J. Edgar Hoover, Black target.
Okay.
He was the first Black target. And he didn't know that you had a William O'Neill in his rank.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So why do you think given all that Garvey accomplished when he was here in the physical, the UNIA and I think it's UNIA-ACL, I think is the name, they haven't come close to doing what Garvey did? Why do you think that is?
Because it was based on personality. It wasn't based.
Okay, that individual leadership. Okay.
Like we're doing what we're doing right now. We're creating infrastructure with Black Gold Nation.
Yeah.
So you die, I die. We're building leadership to take over.
Right.
When you have something that is run strictly based on a personality, and that personality is, enormously phenomenal, like Garvey was, he dies. It's basically going to die as well. I mean, same with what Malcolm was creating with OAU. His group, once he broke from the Nation of Islam, you ain't heard a goddamn thing else about his organization, because it was not structured.
Right.
And so one of the things that I love in the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, the Fred Hampton character asked the team, is this about me or is this about the organization? Am I the organization or are we a real team?
Right.
So it's like, I ain't going nowhere. Take this money and go to open up a clinic.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And that clinic actually did get open, and it was named after that brother.
Excellent. Okay. All right. You mentioned it. That's the next one. Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. What did they get right, or what did they get right? What are they doing right? What pillar do you think they are missing, and what can we learn from the nation?
Again, they're missing the spiritual pillar because they're a religious-based organization. But
explain that. Explain that. Explain how a religious organization can miss the spiritual piece.
Because religiosity blinds you in most instances from spirituality. See, the whole thing about religiosity is it now works to keep you locked into whatever structure you're in, because they don't want you to really be totally free in your mind, because there's a fear that if you're totally free, you'll leave and go somewhere else. So religiosity is used as a control mechanism. I don't give a damn which one it is. It's used as a control mechanism to keep people locked in place. Spirituality is like water. It's so massive that people have not learned how to structure it. So the premise is, let's give them religiosity so that we can keep them structured, so we can keep them under our control. So that's why I say that. But beyond that, of course, they didn't really focus on culture at all. That wasn't a part of their thing. On the education, they are very similar to the Moore Science Temple. So they do a good job on the education end. And then from an economic standpoint, they were about that life at one point. Mm-hmm. Bakeries, all kinds of businesses. But yet again, once the leader died, Elijah Muhammad, everything went to hell in the handbasket. Farrakhan has done a good job of rebuilding the organization. But again, it's religious based, and it's not really focused on the totality. They say they're focused on the totality, but you got to roll with the whole religious conversion, and people ain't gonna do that. And they, of course, wasn't involved in politics. They weren't involved in sports. It's a lot of things that they got wrong. But in terms of getting brothers cleaned up, sisters cleaned up, they did a great job with that. But because religious groups, they weren't going to work with other entities, because the only entity that they believe that knows something is either Farrakhan or Elijah Muhammad. So they're never going to follow any other group structure.
So where would you categorize Elijah Muhammad?
Rasmus Negro.
Solid. Okay. All right. So for those of you guys who missed the intro in the beginning, you are listening to the Revolutionary Code, where we bring you the truth about how governmental politics actually works in every facet of human existence, and how that affects our people, both here in America, Africa, and the diaspora. Tonight's show is our 28th episode, and the title is From Booker T. Washington to the Black Panthers, our greatest takeaways and lessons learned. My name is Tamani Mwandani. I'm the founder of the Black Nation Movement, and I'm the host this evening. And the co-host is Brother Craig B. Lee, who is our National Director of Political Strategy and Implementation. All right, brother. Next one, Malcolm X. What did Brother Malcolm get right? What pillar was he missing? And what can we learn from our dear brother?
Malcolm had a lot going on that he did get right. But let's start with the fact that he was in the nation. And what a lot of people don't understand about Malcolm, he was already destined to do this. I mean, his dad was a part of the UNIA. He went to the meeting with his father. So he was already destined to be great. By the time he gets in the Nation of Islam, okay, you got the religious thing. So he's growing. So he expands the base of the Nation of Islam. As the conflict started to go down, even before 1963, what now happens is Malcolm has a cabinet of people that, like Dr. John Henry Clark, Adam Clayton Powell, he had people teaching him politics, things that the nation really wasn't focused on. And so he had broadened his perspective. But again, you're part of something that the only entity that is viewed to be on a high level is Elijah Muhammad. So he definitely didn't understand the danger that he was in. By the time that he got out, he was in a state of confusion because the first time he went to Mecca, he didn't know that the Arabs were a part of the slave trade. The second time he went, he held their feet to the fire and started having some real dialogue. Most people just know about the first time he went to Mecca. And then he started to become a part of African culture. And that's where he went to Ghana and several other places. So he was moving in a spiritual direction. He was moving in a cultural direction. He definitely had education on point. He was a spiritual brother. He was just caught up in religiosity. He didn't understand the economic piece. He definitely understood the socioeconomic piece, but he just didn't have the solution. And he was spot on as it relates to governmental politics, right. 100%. And of course, he is a grassroots hybrid Black person, without a doubt.
Yeah, but didn't he also understand the economics? Because in the speech that we referenced several times, the ballad of the bullet, he talks about the importance of us controlling our local politics and economics.
You can't just talk about it. You have to know it.
Sure. Okay.
Now, did he understand the concept? Absolutely. But you can't just talk about it. He never started a business. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So if you understand it, you got to produce it in order for the people to follow. Because just the rhetoric alone is not going to be transformative. And that's why, again, if we look at his organization that he created after he left the nation, it didn't sustain itself. Because though your concepts are on point, you're not producing the physical reality. It's almost like somebody says, this is how you make a hamburger. And they know all the ingredients to make a hamburger, but they never make a goddamn hamburger. So how would you ever be able to sell a damn hamburger if you never make the hamburger?
That's right.
At some point, the words have got to connect with action.
Okay. All right. The next one is the Deacons for Defense. What did these brothers get right? What pillar were they missing? And what can we learn from them?
The Deacons, and I give them a lot of respect because they stood up for the people,
yep.
In terms of protection. They were just really a protection group more than anything else. They gave us a lot of pride and a lot of courage to overcome fear. You know, when they got started in 1964. So they definitely had that going. Again, not on a spiritual level. They were rolling with religiosity, but of course they were spiritual brothers. Culture was not there. Education, you know, they knew enough to know we ain't gonna keep on allowing our people to get intimidated and beat up and shot and handle our goddamn business.
Right.
So within that, they did have some cultural essence that was there. Of course, they didn't have the economic component. Socioeconomics, they were learning, and they were part of that process. And in the politics, they were, you know, learning as well. They were definitely grassroots Black people, and some of them grassroots hybrid Black folks. But they laid the foundation for other people like to mimic. You know, a few years later.
You mentioned, and I was just thinking about this as you were talking. And when we were talking about Malcolm X, you mentioned his relationship with Adam Clayton Powell, and how he was getting a political training and understanding. But you didn't mention Bumpy Johnson. Tell us briefly about that relationship and how strategically important it was that Malcolm be linked to a brother like Bumpy Johnson.
Because Malcolm, when he was Detroit Red, was a part of the street life, he encountered one of the most phenomenal gangsters in the history of this country, who happened to be African American. That was Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. And they became real cool. They were real solid. And that relationship is important because to do this work, you're going to run across the street cat. And you're not just going to just run up against them and say, you know, stop selling dope, stop running numbers or whatever, unless you just really got a squad like that. And of course, Bumpy Johnson carried a lot of weight. So there was a respect that grew into a friendship from the streets up to the point that Malcolm had his conversion and went 100 within that. Bumpy Johnson helped Malcolm out a lot of cases when he was over Mosque number 7 in New York. So he gave him street cred. He gave him some protection as well. And it was a good deal. He helped Bumpy with certain things. And you say, well, why would Malcolm be working with a drug dealer? It's a very complex deal that's not as simple as most people who are not in this thing would really ever understand. But his Detroit Red days benefited him and his relationship, and he had credibility. He wasn't a shyster type dude. So Bumpy knew he was 100 from the street. So if he was 100 from the streets, the premise was he was 100 in his conviction.
That's right.
And once you saw that, it was a formidable structure that went on.
Okay, I'm gonna group the next two together because I think they fit. If not, let me know. The Lowndes County Freedom Organization, 1965, and Martin Luther King and SCLC, 55 to 68. The Lowndes County Freedom Organization, Martin Luther King, and SCLC. What did these brothers and these organizations get right? What pillar were they missing, and what can we learn from them?
Again, of course, they were missing the spiritual. And we're going to take the Lowndes County. They were missing the spiritual and mostly your cultural, other than the fact that they had it in their spirit to stand up. They started to get the educational piece in as best they could, because we're dealing with Jim Crow segregation right now in the South. they weren't on the economic tip. They had courage, again, like the Deacons for Defense, because they came about in 1965. So they had the courage, didn't have an economic focus. Of course, they were in on the socioeconomic of that time, and they had enough sense to say, hey, the Democratic Party ain't worth a damn, so we need to start. In their mind, they were starting a third party, but in all actuality, they were still trying to fit inside of the Democratic Party. And I get it. So I give them the utmost respect for that. And of course, that's where your Black Panther symbol comes from, with their Laos County Freedom Party. So I give them the utmost on that. And of course, they were grassroots Negroes, and some of them would probably go into the grassroots hybrid grassroots Black people, and they would probably also be considered grassroots hybrid Black folks. As relates to the SCLC, of course, SCLC is damn bourgeoisie Negroes who created the illusion that they were fighting for Black folks, and they cut a lot of deals. And Martin Luther King finally kind of sort of started to get it a little bit, but you got to understand that Martin Luther King grew up more privileged than most white folks. So I mean, the first person he wanted to marry was white. So he grew up like Eddie Murphy coming to America, right? So he really never understood. I don't care what rhetoric is used. He never really understood the plight of Black folks. And you can look at I can send you the videotape of Fannie Lou Hamer, and they asked Fannie Lou Hamer that question, and she said straight up, she cut it short of saying that she didn't respect him, but she just said straight up, he can't tell me a goddamn thing about being poor. He ain't walked this walk. He ain't lived it. And that's true, right? And so they were, of course, bourgeoisie Negroes. No, spirituality completely gone. They were dealing with straight up Eurocentric Christianity in a real way, in a serious way. I mean, so much so that his father changed their goddamn name from Michael King to Martin Luther King.
That's right.
In honor of Martin Luther, who helped kill Black people.
Right.
And of course, they didn't know that. On the education tip, so culture was completely gone. On the education tip, they had some learning, but the learning was trying to fit and be Eurocentric. Of course, he was sleeping with a whole bunch of white kids, so that was documented. They did have some kind of, sort of, a little perspective, kind of, sort of, on the economics, but it was Martin Luther King who actually, in his movement, destroyed cooperative economics in the Black community. Because what they didn't understand, by trying to stage the sit-in and the boycott, you were actually setting the stage for Black people to stop doing business in a large part with their own Black business. So they really didn't understand the economics, but there were things that they were attempting to do. Socioeconomics, they were definitely on point with that. And they did have some perspective of governmental politics, but they were very naive because they thought that the civil rights legislation was going to be this big thing. And of course, it benefited more white females than anything else. And he thought the 65 Voting Rights Act was going to be some big shit. And of course, that didn't do a goddamn thing. And so that's why you catch him in that interview in 1967, where he says, I think I have, a big mistake in moving my people. I was very naive, but he couldn't change field. Who he got his money from and who he was having sex with dictated his policy.
That's right.
But I will give it to him. Martin had courage, because after the white folks came out, after Hoover came out with them tapes, he didn't back down. And of course, the white, and this kind of showed you how deep he was with the white folks because they protected him. They needed him.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because if you look at the movie Selma, Johnson in the movie says, who else we gonna roll with? It's gonna be him or Malcolm.
Malcolm, right?
And then we won't care. So King is just talking about jobs and going to the bathroom with white folks. He ain't talking about no power.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So this is a very complex deal, but yeah, King had some good attributes, but by the time he figured it out, it was too late.
Yeah. And did you mention what we can learn from King and SCLC? What not to do?
Don't get caught up in believing what white folks tell you is 100. I mean, you can't get caught up because look, the system will pay white folks to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really understand how complex this thing is. And so, if anything, you need to learn is pseudo integration don't equal no damn power,
right,
and no damn freedom.
Right.
Because we're in a worse position now from an economic standpoint than we were during Jim Crow segregation.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've already categorized them as a bourgeoisie Negro, correct? Okay, cool. All right. So the leadership, yeah. I had these last three grouped to get these last three I had them grouped together, but I separated the last one, and I'll tell you why. Or you might already know. So the next grouping is Stokely Carmichael and SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, and the Panthers. So I'll group those together. And then the last group is Eldridge Cleaver and the Black Liberation Army. So we're going to deal with the first group, Stokely Carmichael and SNCC, with Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, and the Panthers. That's one grouping. And then the last one will be Eldridge Cleaver and the Black Liberation Army. So what did Stokely, Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, the Panthers, SNCC, what did they get right? What can we learn from them? And what pillars was missing?
Let me say this, and everybody needs to understand as I get ready to do this constructive criticism of these brothers. I love these cats. But one of the things I detest, whether it be with some of these elders, and I hold these elders, these ancestors and elders to a much higher standard than I would Martin Luther King or any other bourgeoisie person, because these were grassroots Black folks and grassroots hybrid, okay? They were, no matter how many mistakes that they made. But here's the thing. When you use rhetoric, superficial rhetoric, to mobilize our people under false pretense, which helps a lot of them get hurt and killed, I got a problem with that. I'm just gonna be honest with you. The Black Panther Party, well, we can start with SNCC. SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, came out of the SCLC. They became the youth entity for the SCLC. And of course, John Lewis was initially leading them along with a few other cats, and they were rolling with white folks. Stokely ends up changing the direction of the organization to go towards a Black Power deal, which is cool. But again, you're not in the space of all the rhetoric that you're putting out. You can't just talk in this game. You got to produce. So he leaves SNCC after getting them to switch gears. H. Rap Brown then takes over. He now tries a partnership with the Black Panther Party in 1968, going into 69. And now we get where spirituality comes into play, because all of them lack spirituality because now the FBI put the word out that Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, was a CIA agent.
Yeah.
Which of course he wasn't. But when you ain't got no spirituality, you don't know who the goddamn trust. Because everybody's coming at you and they got plants all over and you don't know. Then you got people like Melania Karanga who looking like they culturally based and they killing Negroes because he wants to be the chairman at UCLA or the Black Studies. It's just too much going on for you to really understand how to see clearly, right? So, of course, he leaves, goes to Africa. My homeboy, he was in jail, co-founder of the Panthers, lacked spirituality. They talked a little bit about culture, but here's where they mess up. Everything that they promoted, Mao Zedong, Karl Marx, goddamn Stalin, Lenin, not a goddamn thing dealing with their cultural identity.
Yeah, or their people.
They were using our people with some of the rhetoric of Blackness, while their whole political and economic ideology and philosophy was all goddamn communism, socialism, Marxism. Yeah. And it's just like
systems that were proven not to be working for those people.
So it's like, it is so unfortunate, but all of them, and of course, when you read and study about Bobby Seale, phenomenal again, brother, he was apolitical when he first came back for the military.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know he was in the Air Force.
Yeah.
So that whole group, the number one thing and the number two thing they were missing was spirituality and culture. Solid on learning, but what they were learning was not totally beneficial because they didn't totally understand. They were completely out the loop on the economics, complete. And you know this from their 10-point platform, because you begging white folks for freedom, goddamn liberation, you begging them for decent housing, you begging them for every damn thing.
Yep.
Which makes no sense if you got a platform. And but they understood the socioeconomic, and they were definitely on that, because they came out with the free meal program before Johnson did. They came out with the free clinics. That is still in existence today. They came out with several things helping the elderly. They were doing a lot of those types of things, but none of those things were going to ever change the system of capitalist white supremacy. They were very, very, very idealistic and romantic in those thoughts. And they never thought to take over local offices until it was too damn late.
Right.
They went for mayor of Oakland until 1973. Elaine Brown ran for city council, but by then it was too late. I heard another video where this white dude said, well, they initially ran for state office. What the hell are you in state office? Yeah. But again, trying to build a house from the roof down, and they didn't understand. But I give them credit for being actively involved and committed to trying to help. But they put a lot of people in harm's way, man.
Oh yeah. And we also got to keep in mind that they were also very, very, very young. And we can look back on it now in 2021 and say, what they didn't do and what they got wrong. But at that age, most of us, were nowhere near that level of commitment and willingness to try. So they were young, which is probably why they got a lot of stuff wrong, because they just didn't know. All right, the last one, Eldridge, and I only put this one in the class by themselves because they were about that life. Eldridge Cleaver and the Black Liberation Army.
The Black Liberation Army, of course, comes out of the Black Panther Party because they see that the Black Panther Party ain't really about that life. Right. and Assata Shakur.
And what life are we talking about?
Kill a pig, satisfaction. Kill one big, no satisfaction. Till all the big, complete satisfaction.
That's right.
Their life, man. They went about their life. So you had, when you now entice some Negro to pick up arms, there are cats out here that's about that life.
Yeah.
And they don't understand all the consequences. And of course, you see in the movie that this is brought out. This is brought out.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you know it's true, the Black Liberation Army comes out of the Black Panther Party because they were wanting to be much, much more militant because they were talking all the rhetoric gunplay.
Yep.
And look, everybody on this call, I want you to know something. If you're foolish enough to believe that you're going to take up arms against the goddamn United States, the most retarded thing about that is this. Where are you going to get your goddamn ammunition? I mean, where are you going to get your... You only are going to have so many goddamn bullets. And the movie is brought out that they got into a shootout with the cops. Well, guess what the hell happened after a good 100, 200 rounds? They were out.
Right.
So now you got to wave a white flag and say we surrender. So now you want the pigs who you want to kill to now treat you justly while you try to kill them.
Right.
When you engage these psychotic ass white folks, understand, they about that life. Mm-hmm. And they showed Fred Hampton, they showed many Black Panthers, they were about that life. The few cops that the Black Panthers were able to kill throughout the country, and it was just a few.
Right.
I thought there was even 20 police that they killed during their time frame. The few cops that they were able to kill versus the many Black people the cops were able to kill and still incarcerate, there is no justification for that. Okay? There is no justification for that. So if somebody's trying to lead you down that path, that's a no-win game.
Right.
But Assata Shakur and Eldridge Cleaver, and you can pretty much see how punkish Eldridge Cleaver was because he got all these Black people like Bobby Hutton murdered.
Yep.
Got him murdered.
Yep.
His punk ass to Africa. Yep. Still manipulating these young people with this gangsta ass rhetoric. And then by the time he brings his punk ass back, he kissing white folks' ass and rolling with Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
This is the game that these people are playing with our lives. And I'm sorry, I gotta call it the way that it is. Okay? You gotta call it the way that it is. And again, I take my hat off to them for the social services type things. They could have done those damn programs without having any damn guns.
Right.
But they were trying to invoke a spirit within Black folks to show them that they were not afraid. But guess what? They ass was afraid.
They were afraid, yeah.
So stop playing these games. Just go on and be strong and be in self-defense. But at the end of the day, they got a little twist. I still got respect for them. Still love them. Eldridge Cleaver, I don't know, man. After he got Bobby Hutton shot, I have to put him in. I don't care how smart he was. I have to put that Negro in the grassroots Negro category. Assata Shakur, you know, hybrid Black, you know, made some mistakes. I have to even reduce my good partner here, P. Newton, and put him in the grassroots Negro category as well because he started goddamn robbing Black business owners.
Right.
Right. You know, thug it.
Yep.
Okay. But I give him credit for starting it. And yeah, they say he probably got drugged up in jail. I get it. But you can't go the route that he went in the overall.
So categorize Bobby Seale and Stokely Carmichael.
I mean, both of them were grassroots hybrids.
Yeah, definitely. Easy.
Most of them were grassroots hybrids. They didn't understand the talk, and they got so caught up into the philosophical bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, Marx and bruh.
Yeah. Well, we've already had that conversation that the reasons why they were probably pushing that political philosophy is because of where they were getting their money from. Because it made zero sense as to why they wouldn't look toward to Black revolutionaries for answers and solutions. They were straight pushing this white stuff.
Now I will give it to Stokely, Kwame Ture.
There you go.
He saw the game that was going on with the Panthers, and he's straight up Black power.
Yep.
We're not dealing with this fight thing at all. And Elaine Brown brought this point up in one of her videos. She was like, "Where were the white weathermen? Mm-hmm. Where were the Puerto Rican group? Well, hell, y'all was doing the whole Rainbow Coalition thing. Man, nobody's gonna fight your damn battles for you, man.
That's right.
You don't risk those soldiers to come fight your battle, and we just don't understand it. All right. And you're not gonna convert. Lastly, you're not gonna convert no damn killers and drug dealers in your damn community to now be the vanguards of your community. That don't even make any damn sense.
Right.
I used to say this foolishness. You're not, if a Negro is moving 1,000 keys of cocaine in your community, you can't have this Negro now talking about, oh, we're gonna build up the guy now. How that work?
Right. Yeah, you're like my client base.
Yeah, but the premise is, oh, we're gonna convert. You gotta have some economics to replace the money that they're gonna lose by selling the community dope.
Yep.
And it ain't gonna happen. What, they gonna start selling goddamn Girl Scout cookies to make up the money?
Not unless it's laced with something. All right, so last question. Not last question, but you only get one takeaway from tonight's show. If there's only one thing you would want everybody to walk away with, a firm, clear understanding of, what would that one thing be? One takeaway.
The one takeaway is to totally embrace, learn and embrace the 6 pillars of power, because it will help you tremendously in everything that you're trying to do with your life. Spirituality, life, culture, education, economics, socioeconomics, and politics. Because you can study all of these groups. I'm telling you, you can study all these groups and all these individuals. There's a common thread with each and every last one of them.
That's right.
And if you get caught up and you can't differentiate religiosity between spirituality, I mean, I'm telling you, you're dead on the right. I don't care what you're trying to do. If you don't establish right culture, you're dead on the right. I don't care what you're trying to do. If you don't embrace learning by way of spirituality and culture, you're dead on the right. I don't give a damn how much money you got. I don't care how much materialism and status you got. It ain't gonna matter. It ain't gonna matter. So yeah, it would be the 6 pillars of empowerment: learning them, embracing them, and rolling with them on a daily basis.
Amen. And let me add that if there's an organization led by a melanated Black person, and they are not trying to build power on some level in some way, it's a waste of time, because power is the one thing that we don't have that we absolutely need to protect us from everything that's happening. And if they say they're trying to build power and they do not have the 6 pillars of empowerment, they are going to fail. Why? Yeah. Because it's been proven. That's the whole point of tonight's show. Every leader we've had of significance, every movement we've had of significance, all of them have failed or are falling short because they do not have a full, complete understanding of spirituality. They do not have right culture. They do not have education. They do not have economics, socioeconomics, and politics, all of which must work together at the same time. The point is, some of our movements have had 1 or 2 pillars, but they fail because they don't have all 6.
Yeah.
So if there's a black movement that's not trying to build power, it's a waste of time. If there's a black movement that says they're trying to build power and they don't have the 6 pillars, they're going to fail. And that was the point of tonight's show. And we absolutely must understand that we can't continue, if we want to really, be free and do our own thing. We can't continue to make the same mistakes. We can't continue to keep pushing things that have proven to be incorrect and wrong. And we got to be willing. We got to be adult enough to say, I love so and so for what they were trying to do, but they got this one wrong. And we got to understand that, not to be disrespectful, because we never want to disrespect somebody who stood up and tried, but to understand that it's like my parents didn't have a lot of money. They didn't know a lot, but they did the best they could do with what they had. I'm never going to disrespect my parents for that. But there's some things they just didn't know because of the time that they were raised in. And we got to understand that as well. And if we're really trying to be free, liberate and save black people and build power, we have to be adult with our conversations and whatnot. So,
and somebody, let me say, think about that.
Yep.
If you have a chair, if you have a chair, and a chair requires 4 legs, but you only have 1 goddamn leg, will that chair be able to hold you up?
You have a beanbag, you can be on the floor.
All right. You got a vehicle, car or truck, requires 4 tires. It only has 1 tire, 1 wheel. Will you be able to drive 30 miles an hour?
You are going nowhere. Yes, sir.
You're going nowhere.
Yep.
It's the same concept. Even if you're building a house is built on a square. Okay? A house is built on a square. And in Louisiana, we build a lot of houses on a pier and beam. And a pier and beam typically is going to have 4 corners covered, and then you're going to have your middle covered for your load-bearing beam. If you don't have those pillars in place, you're not going to have a level foundation. It's the same thing with this, but we don't make that connection, so we get caught up in the romanticism of words, the rhetoric. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And most of our people who have stood up in front of us, I'm just being totally honest. I don't give a damn if they're preachers, if they so-called politicians, grassroots advocates, whoever. They stand up with rhetoric to try to entice people to maneuver when they haven't maneuvered on what they're enticing people to do themselves. And it's only in these spaces of advocacy and religiosity that we roll with this. Because goddamn well, if a person ain't got no training, no education, and no degrees, you ain't let nobody go operate on your damn head.
That's right.
You ain't gonna let nobody do a heart transplant for your head. But when it comes to these areas that's so mysterious, we just give them a pass. And we can't give them no more damn pass.
Right? Yeah, because we don't want to look at them, and we don't want to be honest. It's like that uncle that nobody want to talk about, although they know that he been touching them kids. And it's amazing that we do that. We look the other way, we put stuff under the rug, and we allow the abuse to continue. And we are allowing the abuse to continue with even the current quote unquote movements we have now. And it's funny because when you were talking, I certainly see a lot of the same activity of our quote unquote so-called movements today, still doing the same crap, still missing the mark, still pretending to be tough, still doing silly stuff to put people's lives in danger. But black people follow because we don't know no damn better. All right, we're gonna open this thing up for Q&A. Brother Michael's put the first one in the chat. He said, what about the pillars in relationship to Black Lives Matter? I don't know if he means.
Now you're applying the pillars to Black Lives Matter. I mean, they already out the box.
Yeah. Do they have any of the pillars? Maybe politics.
No, they're not in none of the damn pillars.
Yeah, they don't have any of the pillars.
Yeah, they're not in any of them. First off, you start off incorrect spiritually and culturally because you're a homosexual group first and foremost. and I'm talking about the leadership.
Yep.
I know grassroots people are involved unknowingly because they didn't take the time to read the damn website. But they're telling you who they are on the website, right? So no, they're not. They're not anywhere in any of the pillars because they lack the education, they lack the culture, they lack the spirituality. You know, they ain't talking no economics for the benefit of black folks. Socioeconomic, they pretending within that particular realm, and then governmental politics, the white folks prop them up again on the national scene. Mike, it's so funny. They got a sister, one of these Negro females who was part of Black Lives Matter. She won state rep. And I'm going to send you this information. She won state rep in St. Louis, Missouri. Bruh, she done came out the door selling the Negroes out. She's straight rolling with the white folks. Straight rolling with the white folks.
Yeah, they've been completely co-opted. Completely.
Straight up. And so, again, superficial rhetoric, and the Negroes don't know what hit them. And they don't even understand what the game was because their hero wasn't no damn Martin Luther King, ain't no damn Malcolm X. They used that game. Their hero, this name, remember this name, Bayard Rustin. Bayard Rustin. Straight up homosexual. They try to say this great genius that helped Martin Luther King, blase, blase. He is the iconic figure for Black Lives Matter. So now they ain't got not one pillar legitimate, especially the first three.
Yeah. Yeah, and let me say that as it relates to our movement to I want to be clear, those movements that are not focused on power, I do not mean to imply that if a movement is trying to do a good deed, feed the homeless, back to school drive, all that stuff is good, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be without power. You're still going to get knocked in the head and have no power to push back or stop the knocking from ever happening. So I want to be clear that we absolutely must make sure that whatever we're doing, power has to be a part of it in some way. Otherwise, we'll be treating the symptoms of our lack of power for the rest of our lives, and nothing will ever stop. And of course, our goal is to stop some of the crap that's happening so we can move forward as we're supposed to. Brother Naru, Brother Michael beat you to it again this week with the first question. I apologize, but he put it in the chat. Do you have a question that you want to kick it up with?
Apologize, brother.
Well, I'm not holding first.
I'm not holding no seat, bro. I'm not holding no seat. I'm love brother Michael. He always has intelligent things, man. I always have plenty of questions because I'm kind of a newbie, so I'm always trying to understand more about what's going on here. So we're talking about power, building true power here in America. But we see that we've been infiltrated, all our organizations we've ever been in. How are we going to be able to vet these people out and spot them out before they can infiltrate what we're doing? We don't know who the police, the FBI. Some of y'all might be one right now. Any of y'all the FBI, the police? No, I'm just playing. But anyway, that's one of the things. It's as we saw in the movie, although it was a depiction, man, that brother was able to infiltrate deep into it, bro. Deep into it, and that's happening on many levels. So that's one of my main concerns. We got having anybody infiltrating, and then the word power, we're throwing it around very loosely. I would like to see that word defined more. We've already determined that we can't win an armed struggle here. We're outgunned, outmanned, and all that. Political power, are we speaking about that form of power more or less, or a cultural power? Like, I want a definition of what you mean by power, and I'm gonna leave it there for now.
First off, great question, Brother Nagro, and it gets back again to the 6 pillars of empowerment. Those first 3, because when you have spirituality, you have the supernatural power. That third eye gives you basically a 6th sense to be able to see things. There were things that were done. In the movie, you see it. There were things that were done that if they were on the spiritual tip, they would have easily been able to find a way out. But again, when you're not connected, as we were talking about early on, and I go back and when we talk about Malcolm, you say, well, Malcolm was operating on a spiritual level. Well, he was spiritual, but the religious thing blocked it. You say, well, how do you know that? Look, man, when Malcolm got into the Nation of Islam, it's damn near like he forgot all of his street savvy.
True.
It's like he forgot all of his damn street savvy that he had. And it's like he was so committed to them, he couldn't see nothing else, right? And so spirituality keeps your head in the game at all times so you can be able to see. So that's the first thing that you need to vet people who may be infiltrated. And I know sometimes that we've had meetings and I have to come down hard, and I tell Sister Fabu and to Mighty this all the time. It's like, look, man, I get it. Y'all some good-hearted, wonderful people. I love y'all. But my 50 PhDs in niggerology, niggermetrics, niggerosis, niggerillo, crackatology, crackatosis, I study Negro, especially for what you just asked. Because it ain't nothing to be infiltrated, bro. It ain't nothing to be infiltrated. And if you think this is a game, these people, that's why, Brother Nahru, if you read some of the FBI documents, they redact the name because they don't want you to learn how to get a feel for them, right? So if they don't want you to know the names, 50 years after the damn document, a situation has been completed, what is that all about? Because A, they don't want you to know, get a feel for them. B, some of their relatives are still rolling with them. And Judas and the Messiah, Black Messiah, let you know, they got plants who are dope dealers, who are pimps. So, bruh, if you out here trying to play games like Huey P. was trying to play games on the back end of the Panthers, taking down black, you think these white folks ain't knowing what you're doing? They got people rolling with you, helping you to do this, okay? So that's the number one thing that you need, spirituality and culture, and that helps you put the infrastructure together so that you can then do a better job of vetting. There is no 100% concrete deal. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But how you prepare yourself for it to happen so you don't get caught up and these people, are over your mainframe computer or they are over the money or something like that. That's what happened with Marcus Garvey's group. That's what happened with the Nation of Islam. Yeah, the damn John, what's his name? John Ali or whatever his name. He was the damn national secretary for the Nation of Islam. You can read about him in the book, The Judas Factor. All of these people were close knit within these organizations. They had already penetrated, right? So, but the common thread with all of them, they lacked spirituality. They were focused on whatever their religious doctrine was, and that's what got them caught up. So we got to be on top of our game. The other question that you asked, what was it?
About power.
Okay, the power. So again, that starts with the 6 pillars. The number one power that we gotta have is the power over our stance. You can't have no power externally until you have power internally. And that power is your spirituality and your culture. That gives you your ethical and moral compass. It gives you your discipline so that you can now rock and roll. It gives you your ability to resist bullshit. It gives you your ability to resist being caught up in drugs when they send females at you, or when they send males at you, because they're going to send these particular things. So the number one power is the power of self. Once you can now do that and connect with other brothers and sisters, now the whole focus is now taking over local space, villages, towns, small cities, mid-sized cities, because you're not taking over a large city in America, and you damn sure ain't taking over no state, and you for goddamn sure ain't taking over the United States. See, I wouldn't even get caught up lying to people like that. But what is doable is the leveraging of power individually with the right mindset and taking over these local spaces. And the way you know that can happen, yeah, we've done it before. This ain't nothing new, but you go back to Reconstruction, we've done it before, man. We've done it.
Thank you, brothers.
All right. Does anyone else have a question or comment for Brother Craig this evening? Any questions or comments going once, going twice? All right, Brother Craig, closing remarks.
Just again, thank you guys for attending. Keep on doing research on the Black Panther Party. Keep on doing research on Karl Marx. Do research on Adam Smith, the so-called father of capitalism. Research these things. Test whether or not what I'm saying is valid. I got a talk show tomorrow with Judge Joe Brown. And look, I'm sorry for him, man, because everything that I've said, and I just sent Tamani the video. Tamani, you can put that video in this chat.
Right.
10 things that the movie Judas and the Black Messiah got right or wrong. And you'll see everything that I've disseminated, 99%, 100% damn correct. Judge Joe Brown, yesterday we got into a conversation. He tried to dismiss the impact of William O'Neill. He tried to, all these people are mad at the film because they wanted the Black Panther Party to be the central focus. And for me, somebody who does this work, I'm glad they made the film about the sellout, so that you can really start to see how serious the sellout thing is. Because, bro, they had cats planted in all of these organizations. And the day that Martin Luther King was assassinated, members of his own goddamn team sold him out, along with Jesse Jackson. But Judge Joe Brown likes Jesse Jackson. So he said that Jesse Jackson ain't a sellout. Well, who you think I'm gonna believe? Ralph Abernathy and Hosea Williams or Judge Joe Brown? I'm sorry, I'm gonna roll with the cats who were right there with me. You see what I'm saying? Who's still alive and who's dead? Okay? Whose brother-in-law, whose half-brother, Noah Robinson, is a big-time gangster who's still incarcerated? That's Jesse Jackson. But we get into identity politics, so we don't want to tell the truth. So now he starts to do some good deeds, and he does some things, and now it's hard for people to disconnect because it's like, there's no way that he could do this. And no matter how many times you see that it happens, this is how it works. So you got to be spiritually, culturally, educationally, economically, socially, politically rooted so that you do not get played in this game as an individual or within your group. And then that allows you to stop wearing your goddamn emotions on your damn sleeve when somebody now has to now have a compassionate discussion with you, because if we can't be honest and upfront with each other, we ain't never gonna make it. We gotta be able to do that, and then that'll lead us on the right path. And thank you guys again for
Hold on. Brother Lloyd has a question.
Yeah, hey,
Comment.
before Brother Lloyd, guys want to know, is your conversation with Judge Joe Brown going to be like aired somewhere? Are we going to be able to, or that's a private conversation?
I'll send you the number. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he comes on this show, and they, Sister Cher got me booked, and it's about to go down tomorrow.
Yeah, I want to see that.
All right. Lloyd?
Oh, I just want to say real quick, kind of sort of to Brother Naru's point, and Brother Craig, you can speak on it. I guess a lot of people don't know, when we go back and you can read the book, it's called Order to Kill, and it talk about the assassination of Martin Luther King. And people don't know, Judge Joe Brown actually sat and heard, one of the judges that heard the case of it. And one thing that they talk about a lot in the book is all the MI groups in each city, each state, that was agents that was following people around, doing all this stuff, that was Black. And this was in the 60s. So I can just imagine how deep that network is in 2021 and how many Black people have added to it. So just like, but to Brother Naru's point and your explanation of it, is the first sign of it, or the first step of it, is recognizing and understanding that that's what's going on. And once you start understanding that's what's going on, trust me, when you as a close knit group and what we was doing and how we're operating, it's hard to operate as an agent in those spaces for a long period of time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It just is, it's almost, it felt like you show your tail feathers eventually. It's like, it's so hard to keep that stuff going because we're so involved in each other's lives and daily, and what we're doing and how we're doing it is almost hard to say, all right, what you been doing all day? Shoot, being an agent.
Yeah. And the way we're rolling now, Ru, if you're trying to infiltrate us, you know, the way we're doing it, you're gonna be helping us mobilize Black people, organize Black people, having events, getting people ready for political campaigns. You know, you talking about hiding in plain sight. Okay, come on. but the level, like Brother Lloyd just said, that, you know, we understand fundamentally, concretely, we understand the importance of spirituality, right culture. And again, like Lloyd said, it's gonna be hard for you to infiltrate and really make anything happen because of how we're rolling and how close we understand we have to be. So, you know.
Hey, you know, Lloyd,
I feel that, but let's not be fooled and think we can't. That's all I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying we can't. I'm saying, you know, it's like Craig said, you know, what are you infiltrating? A grassroots campaign to knock on doors and mobilize Black people? You know, we're not carrying weapons trying to blow up anything.
And this is a very good point of what Lloyd just brought up, and even both you and Naru and Tamani. Goes back to the movie. They had to get Fred Hampton, and William O'Neill was like, he ain't doing the goddamn. And goddamn it, Zedgar who said, I need that nigga. This is no joke. They got him on stealing some goddamn ice cream,
yeah.
Now, he didn't steal. But now think about that. How in the hell could you make an ice cream taper stick? Okay? See, you gotta, I tell people all the time, you can't have no vices in this game being in leadership, for damn sure. You really don't need to have no vices in being a follower. But if you got punani issues, you got gambling issues, drug issues, alcohol, anything, and heaven forbid you a thief or something like that, oh my goodness, they gonna get with you. And that's how this thing works. But they couldn't get Fred Hampton, so they created something. Now guess what? Come to find out, when Bobby Seale won the case, when he got out the case in Chicago, okay, that he was on dealing with the whole staging the political protest, they set him up. Here's another thing that was totally accurate in the movie. Yeah, hey, Lord, you remember the dude who infiltrated? They used as an infiltrator George Sam.
Yep, just to come in there and raid it.
Okay, now check this out. Guess who? And this was perfectly planned in the movie. Remember the part where J. Hoover says, "Oh, we ain't worried about it. If he gets off, we already got somebody willing to testify that he ordered the hit on the damn plant that George Sam killed." But they didn't get specific. They literally, and Judge Joe Brown brought this out on yesterday, they literally brought Bobby Steele all the way to Connecticut and tried his ass on a murder charge and tried to get him hemmed up. And George Sam was the goddamn mean with. He was able to beat the case, but at the end of the day, they were using the cat in order to actually do that. They don't give a damn if you done did it or not. So you know you can't be shady in no way, shape, form, or fashion.
And you absolutely, and that's why, and that is why it is critically important to have control of your local space, because that control of that local space will put buffers and barriers in place that make it very difficult for somebody to come in and charge you with anything, because the local political apparatus, the police, the judges, everybody is down for you because they're part of your culture. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that too. Yeah, Brother Naru, don't get me wrong. You know, we know this, but in order, I can't speak for no other city, no other state, but I ain't never been arrested. I've never been to jail, never been suspended from school. I didn't have, just this past month, I didn't have police chiefs, captains, senior detectives, all come to my store and give me their card and be like, you need anything, you know me. Not to mention, I know the district attorney, county attorney. You know what I'm saying? For somebody to just come and be like and plan and do this and what I done just done in the community so far, like it would be definitely some ice cream that ain't never gonna stick. Not to mention, I got many of free lawyers that will be down to make sure that we doing what we need to do. So if you operating in the way that you're supposed to be operating, not saying you still can't be touched in certain ways, but we have to understand in those in our circle where we reign supreme and that we can handle, trust me, it ain't gonna be easy, and I'm not gonna make it easy for you. That's why, Brother Craig, just by having any of those vices for anybody to hold or dangle as a carrot over my head. So you know, but you gotta have to be 100 in order to
exactly
have that type of relationships too, though.
Hey, Lord, it's interesting you bring that up because a few years ago, and Naru, this is to Lloyd's point, I'm connected as well. Local police, sheriff, marshal. I got relatives on. I told one of my cousins who was with the FBI, I said, before y'all come get me, at least give me a little heads up. Oh, I wouldn't do that, cousin. I said, you a goddamn like. So look, this was about 2016, 17. I get a call one morning from one of my partners who is SPD, Shreveport Police Department. And he said, Brother Craig, aren't you friends with Marvin T. Muhammad? And he said, yeah. I said, yeah. He said, man, you need to get that dude on the phone because they're going to arrest him tomorrow at the rally when Zuri Muhammad comes to town. Zuri Muhammad is Farrakhan's national spokesperson. And so what had happened, Marvin T. Muhammad had made a death threat on one of my partners who was running for city council. And when we asked him about it, he lied and said, no, that's a lie. So I was through with it. My partner calls me on the way to Mississippi. Well, and I say he was SPD, he was actually sheriff, Don Gibbs. And Don Gibbs gave me the information. And so he said, man, you better tell that dude to call. I called Marvin T. Muhammad, and at first I cussed him out because I'm like, dude, I was running for city council And you lying, yeah, this was 2014. I said, you lying and being in the car with me, and they got a warrant after your goddamn arrest. You see? So, but I got partners who look out for me like that, who is in law enforcement. You cannot make everybody in law enforcement your goddamn enemy, because some of them can give you intel that will help save your ass, okay? Or your group, or whatever. And in this case, it's a group. Because for me, if I got a parking ticket, I'm going to pay it. I don't use no leverage to offset parking or speeding tickets. Now, if one of my partners who is a DA or something sees me in court and he says, why are you in court? And I'm here to pay parking ticket. He's like, get your ass up out of here. I got this. But I'm not calling in no favors. But this is how this thing works. But if you make the whole apparatus your enemy, bro, they gonna come for you. I'm just telling you. That's how the game.
It's a team sport. And you better have a team.
You gotta have the people.
Because damn it, they got a team.
Look here, a lot of those people admire. I mean, locally they admire me. They might admire Lloyd. As somebody gets out there, they just can't come. They can't be seen messing with you, and I'm cool with that. But not all of those people are sellouts. They just gotta work. They just got a job.
Yeah, and also try to remember and keep in mind, Brother Nauru, that when we say 100-year plan, we mean 100-year plan. Your daughter is what, 16?
Yes, sir.
16. Okay. So you know, as I always say, it is my responsibility to get what Sister Fabu has from her that I can fully understand. I'm 50. I give it to Brother Lloyd, 32. He gives it to your daughter, 16, and she gives it to I think our youngest member in the movement, Sister Patricia's son, who's only 5 years old. We want to raise a generation of Black children who understand that we all we got. So when we are raising a new kind of Black child to run a new kind of Black municipality, we don't have to worry about certain things. Why? Because the spirituality is there from day one. The culture is there from day one. They fully have been educated properly. They control the economics. Socioeconomics is on their side because that's how they were raised. And politically, we're building power. So it's not about what we have today, per se. It's about what we're building for tomorrow. And again, when we say 100-year plan, that's what we're trying to do. That eliminates a lot, bro. That was the whole point of tonight's show. All of our movements did not have a full understanding of the 6 pillars, and that's why they either are no longer here or they're irrelevant. It is what it is. All right. Anybody else got a question or comment? Please say no, because it's 10:56. All right. So with that, if you want more information about the movement, my email is theblackgonation@gmail.com. The website, the main one, is blackgonation.com. And if you want to watch any of the previous 26 episodes of the Revolutionary Code or the previous 19 movie reviews, both of those things are on blackgomedia.net. The third pillar of the 6 pillars is education. That is why we have this show. We're trying to educate our people as to how this thing is actually played and how it works so that we can do better. Again, we're not just here to entertain and educate. We're trying to get you to do something, preferably be a part of this movement so we can build power. And it is my sincerest belief that we are the culmination of all these movements, not because we're better, not because we're smarter, but because we study, we understand, and we see, obviously, where they were strong, but we also see, where they weren't as strong, and we want to be strong in those areas, and we can be because we understand those areas. So this coming Saturday is our 20th movie review, part 5 of a documentary that, thank God, Brother Kim brought to our light, called Plutocracy. Lord have mercy. If I venture to say that if our movements understood plutocracy, then they would probably still be around, and they would have functioned a completely different way.
True. Completely different way.
And again, this is a 5-part documentary that I say that most people don't even know. when you watch this documentary, you see how good it is, and you see how many views it has. It's a travesty. People haven't seen this thing, and of course we haven't seen it, so we don't know, man. We just don't know. It's like we give the Panthers all the love and respect we can, because if nothing else, at the end of the day, they stood up, they tried, but they didn't know. So Malcolm was probably the closest one who had a good understanding, and he was completely off because he just didn't know. And here we are in 2021 trying to give our people the education because our people just don't know. So I'm going to say that if you're not plugged into this show, The Revolutionary Code, and if you're not paying attention to the movie reviews, you're not going to get it. You're going to continue to do what you've been doing, which probably has nothing to do with power. You're probably dealing with some symptoms of us not having power, or you think you're building power and you're not, because you don't have the 6 pillars. If we're not employing the 6 pillars, we're missing the mark. And the third one is education. And this coming Saturday, we're having a movie review so we can continue to educate our people. So if you're not busy, if you want to further understand what's what, it's at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Mountain. You need to be there, because what we're talking about, Black people don't have a clue, which is why we keep losing. That's the first announcement. Second announcement is that we're preparing to launch a new show called Building Wakanda, Inspiring the Next Generation. We want to motivate our youth to get involved in STEM, not to go get a job for Microsoft or for Amazon, but so we can build our own Wakanda and do our own thing as we see fit. So to make this show a booming success, we need to have some Black scientists, some Black engineers, and some Black architects that we can interview and discuss. If we want a Wakanda, then how the hell do we build it? So if you know somebody, if you yourself, if you're a scientist, an architect, or an engineer, and you want to be a part of the show, let me know. Or if you know someone who fits the needs of what we're trying to get, then let me know, and we'll plug them into the show, and we'll keep this thing moving. Again, always understand and remember that again, Brother Craig and I, we're not just here to inform and educate. We're trying to get you to do something. We want to inform, educate, mobilize, organize, and build, because ain't nobody coming to save us. Everything we need, we already have. We just need to come together and use it as a group so we can move forward and build something that matters. Tonight's show, I hope, was evidence, proof even, that our movements have failed for very specific reasons. I believe that we're the culmination of those movements because we understand why and how they failed, and we have the answer so that we don't fail. But of course, Brother Craig and I, we can't do it by ourselves. We need everybody on this call and everybody that you know to be a part of the movement, because it's going to take a critical mass for us to make this happen. So with that, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging on. It's a late night, long call. I appreciate it. And always remember 2 things. No one can do everything, but if everyone does something, everything will get done. And absolutely, always remember that nothing is more sacred. Not you, not me, your kids, my kids, your family, not my family. Nothing is more sacred than liberation and salvation of Black people, because the Black people don't make it. Your people aren't going to make it. I'm not going to make it. None of us are going to make it, because the group is not going to make it. But if we put the group first, we build power for the group, then by default, our people will make it, because our group will have power and we will wield it to protect our people like everybody else does with their own people. So with that, again, you guys have a wonderful evening. God bless. Thank you very much, and have a good evening. Peace.
All right.